So, if you've ever seen the circle of fifths, which is the circular diagram that shows us all of the key signature options that we have. I sometimes like to call them scale signatures because functionally that's kind of more how we think of them. What keys are is a big complicated topic, so thinking of them as being scale signatures is usually more useful for beginning to intermediate pianists. Anyway, if you've ever seen that, you might recall that it shows on the right side of the circle the key signatures using sharps, going off and down in the right direction. And on the keyboard, when we look at that, we end up going up all the way up there, going from C all the way up to B, which has 5 sharps. And as we go up, we get higher and higher. Sharps push things higher. So by the time we get from C, which has all white notes, up to B, which has all of the black notes up there, our scales are pushed towards the top of the sonority spectrum. Well, with the flats, we're going to do the opposite. We go around the left side of the circle and we start to get lower the whole time. Remember that a flat takes a note and brings it down, right? So if we're starting with our first flat scale, which is actually on the white note, it's the one missing white note from our white note major scales that we had seen before, F major, which has one flat, B flat. If we go down a fifth from there, once again going leftward or downward, our fifth takes us to B flat, which has 2 flats. From there, down a fifth takes us to E flat, which has 3 flats. A fifth down to A flat, 4, one more down to D flat, and finally down to G flat with a grand total of 6 flats. So everything is pushed itself downward. So it's kind of a neat sort of quasi-theoretical thing. But back in the day when people were much more familiar with considering the different sounds of keys and things, this was actually very valuable. The key of G flat major actually sounded, in many ways, much darker to people, or so accounts would say. These days, we don't really consider that quite so much. It's the sound of music, if you will, and the great diversity of it is much more all over the place. So we're kind of basically used to hearing everything at this point. But in any case. So, that aside, that you really don't need that bit of theory to learn how to play these, but it is kind of useful and interesting to note as you are doing this, and it plays into part of how we teach these. So, speaking of that, let's jump in and talk about these. So if you'll recall from our white note sharp scales and, of course, the natural minor scales that started on the same white notes, C, D, E, G, A, and B, we had a select fingering that we were using for all of those scales. In the right hand, it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the left hand, it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Playing the C major scale with the right hand. And with the left hand, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Right? So that was our pattern. We based our learning of those scales on that singular pattern that we were going to use. For the flat key scales, we do not quite have that luxury, which is why we teach them a little bit later. We have a number of different fingering patterns that we are going to be using for these scales. And while some of them do overlap and are the same, they are largely different and more diverse. So that's part of why we don't teach these in the same sort of way, okay? The first one here is the most familiar, probably F major, right? We have all white notes except for our B flat. If I play a white note scale from F to F, if you know the sound of your major scale, you might notice that something's a little strange there. That sound's not usually a sound that we would consider in a major. So to get the major sound, whole, whole, half is our major pattern. Remember, we need to take this fourth and we need to drop it down, giving us something that sounds like this. Now, as with the B scale from the major scales using sharps, starting on white notes, you might recall that we, with our left hand, had to actually alter the fingering pattern a little bit to account for a strange cross that we would end up having to do if we used it. And we were playing instead 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, we're having to do something very similar here with the right hand for the F scale. So instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is nice because it's a symmetrical fingering similarly to that. And fortunately enough, with the left hand, we get to stick one last time to that fingering that we were using previously. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So both together look and sound like this. Thanks for watching this lesson from Liberty Park Music. If you enjoyed this lesson and learned something from it, do us a favor, hit that like button. And if you really liked it, share it around. Let your friends and family check it out too. If you want to find more lessons like this or explore other piano-related topics, please come visit us at libertyparkmusic.com. We have full piano courses ranging from beginner to more advanced levels, and everything is online and streaming 24/7 so that you can design your music learning around your schedule and learn in the comfort of your own home from a talented roster of professional teachers and musicians. Come check us out.